Hey guys, this is Cameron, aka the Currency Kid. Today I want to have a discussion on exponential change and why we shouldn't underestimate digital assets. I have a PowerPoint here. I've thought about this for some time now, but I want to keep it very conversational because a lot of this is just theory perspective. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen 5, 10, 20, 50 years from now. So I'm more than open to being wrong about the information I share. This is how I view things. This is kind of some patterns that I see happening and what I believe is possible. But once again, I'm open to being wrong, and I would definitely love some feedback and different perspectives. One thing we've seen to be certain throughout time is exponential change. So here we have a chart, indicates growth. We can even make that, for this example, growth of society, goods and services, transportation, money, everything just throughout time. So we have growth, we have time. Going back all the way to when the wheel was invented, when fire was invented, leading up to um, harvesting crops, water channels, gardening, automobiles, planes, telephones, internet, everything, blockchain. Um, of course, this video is I am a blockchain cryptocurrency investor, so a lot of that is going to lead. A lot of this conversation is going to lead to that, but a lot of it is just technology as a general and what the future of that can hold. But going back to this graph here, so we have growth, we have time. Dating back to what I said before, the wheel, fire. It wasn't like those ideas were executed on, and every year we had a guaranteed or a steady 3% growth or a 5% growth in evolution of everything that I mentioned before. That has changed exponentially as time has gone on, whether it's, you know, because the ability of travel, civilizations being able to travel to other civilizations for the first time and share information and knowledge, the ability to fly to a different continent for the first time and share information, the ability of a phone call to share information for the first time, TV, internet, the availability to send an email within seconds, the availability, etc., 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 etc. Information is being easier and easier and easier to be transmitted through borders, through overseas, and ideas are spreading more rapidly, especially as population growth happens. Change and growth is really exponential. It's not a guaranteed or a steady couple percentage points a year. It is exponential. So I mentioned it a few minutes ago. Um, adoption via telephone, electricity, cars, TV, air travel, internet. You can see the rate of adoption over time for things that have caught on and have worked. The rate of adoption has sped up pretty drastically. Going all the way back to telephone, electricity, cars, air travel, like I talked about before. Excuse me. It did take a little bit longer for those to have a wider adoption, just based on the ability of information to travel, and population may even be a factor as well. Over time, as the internet was introduced, and more formal and better forms of social media and content distribution have come along, that is rapidly decreasing in the amount of time it takes to adopt a technology, um, a good, a service, a trend, whatever it may be. That's becoming shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter as time has gone on and information sharing has become easier. So, interesting topic here, talking about adoption and users. So, Facebook, a statistic that I found recently said it had over 2 billion monthly active users. And that is a company that is within 14 years of age. YouTube, 1.5 billion monthly active users. That company is 13 years old. Instagram has 1 billion monthly active users. That is a company that is a company and idea that has been around for 8 years. Never in the history of our society, mankind, our planet, whatever it may be, have we seen figures like this. I joke around. You go back to when the wheel was invented, wherever that was, or when fire was invented. For them to have even half or 10% of those active users per month, it would have taken hundreds of years to thousands of years, possibly, to get that information to that many people, spread, and have that wide of an adoption. The ability for an idea to go from nothing, 0 users, to over a billion within 10 years is something we've never seen before. In the future, it may be possible that we have platforms, ideas, websites, whatever it may be, goods or services that have a billion users and have been around a lot less than 8 years, possibly 5 years. How low could it get? Could it get to a year? We don't know. That is the beauty of exponential growth. And that's why I'm very excited for the next couple years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, wherever it may be. But once again, last point, look at these statistics. An idea has never had the amount of adoption in a short amount of time compared to these three platforms. And obviously, that's due to the internet age. Okay, so I want to talk about the top 10 companies by market capitalization worldwide in 10-year increments. So we go back to 1998, 20 years ago. For the top 10 companies in the world by market cap, meaning how much they're worth total, the average age of a company in the top 10 market cap was 75 years old. You can see the different ages here. Some were 149 years, some were younger, 23 years. Some were, in the 30s. But the average age of a company in the top 10 market cap wise in 1998 was 75 years. Fast forward just 10 years. The average age of a company in the top 10 market cap wise worldwide is 37 years. Some of these companies being introduced just simply due to the fact of the internet being more widely adopted, such as Microsoft, etc. But that's really just cut in half there. Over a 10-year period, the average age of a company in the top 10 market cap worldwide was cut from 75 years to 37 years. 10 years later, changed completely. The average age of a company worldwide by market cap was 27 years old. You see you see a lot of names here that were never mentioned before. Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Alibaba. These were companies that weren't even around possibly back in 1998. A majority of them actually were not. You see many companies, 19 years old, 18, 19, 14, 20, etc. So that's a radical difference in the amount of time it's taken a company to go from being founded to being in the top 10 market caps worldwide. So where do I see this going in the future? How low can it get? Are we going to have companies or projects 10, 20, 50 years from now that have only been around for a year, 5 years? Is it possible that a company that's been around for 3 years can go to a $1 trillion market cap within 3 years and become one of the top 10 market cap companies in the world? I don't know how low of a number that can get to. Could it be a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? All possibilities. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Just like before this list, in 2028, we want to take a look back. Will any of these companies or projects actually even be in the top 10 still? Will this be an entirely different list? And every 2 to 5 years after that, will it be an entirely new list? we're going to see radical change in growth. The days of parking money in a stock that pays a dividend and is going to be around forever um, may be a very, very rare thing in the coming future. Something to think about. Okay, top 10 world currencies being traded throughout the world. Um, you have the US dollar, the Japanese yen, the euro, the pound, the Canadian dollar, the Swiss franc. The top 10 currently traded, currencies in the world. Now, on average, you average the age here for the top 10. They have an average lifetime of 220 years. Some of these have spawned from other currencies before that combined into one, but I'm talking about the actual birth year and official year that these currencies by that name was introduced. It's an average of 220 years that these currencies have been around in this form. Now, if you want to add in different cryptocurrencies now, in today's age, Bitcoin, Dash, whatever it may be, whatever digital currency it is, those have an average lifetime, or really cryptocurrency started 9 years ago. So if you include cryptocurrencies into this equation, you have a new average a little bit lower of 7 years. And this can dramatically change in the next 10, 20, 50 years. This top 10, just like stocks that I showed you on the last slide, this top 10, will this even be the top 10 in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? Are most of these currencies even going to be around still? What is that top 10 going to look like? And how often is that going to change? I'd be willing to bet that the top 10 currencies, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, they won't have an average lifespan of 220 years. That's something to think about. Will they have an average lifetime of 10 years? Who knows? 20 years, whatever it may be. But if you fast forward in time, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it may be, I have a feeling that the average age of the top 10 currencies will not be in the 220-year range. My perspective, something to think about. Short little evolution of currency. Obviously, there's so many more examples of currency, like shells, forms of grain that were being exchanged, leather, different coins worldwide started at different time periods, etc. It's very vast, but here's just a basic example. So it is known that we started out using barter. You know, I'll trade you this cow for 10 chickens, or I'll trade you 100 pounds of grain for whatever it may be, X amount of cotton, right? So that's how it started, and eventually it became IOU systems that were written on scrolls or parcels, etc. However, they tracked IOUs. For example, right now, wheat's in harvest. I'll give you this wheat right now, but you owe me a cow next summer when it's full grown. Example, IOUs. And that went on for thousands of years. And then then from there, it took, estimated thousands of years to go to coinage, coins being used as currencies. Every different civilization throughout the world had different time zones when they were introduced to coins, but for this example, we'll start there. And then on average, it took around 500 years. Once again, this is different globally, but just as an example, it took about 500 years to go from coins to paper currency. That was around for a long time. And then about 850 years later, we had credit cards, debit cards started to form. From there, I went to different things, PayPal, etc. But that took several hundred years in that spread there. Shorter amount of time later, 58 years later, cryptocurrency was introduced. In 2009, a currency that is global, decentralized, has an immutable ledger, which means its history cannot be deleted or erased. It's very transparent, and it's not secured or governed by One government. It's peer-to-peer, decentralized. And then there was a massive evolution of currencies as well. The next currency, um, some of the major ones that happened from there were about 2 years later. So the time difference between um, adoption and change, once again, it gets exponential, decreased. And now it seems like every single day there's a new form of cryptocurrency out there. Some could be used for payment, some not. But just about every single day, or if you want to be more specific on actual uh, cryptocurrencies that are made for currency, every day or every couple days, a new currency is created. Whether that sticks around or fails, that's not the point. The point is that nearly every single day, a new currency is created and an idea is executed. You can see over time how that has shifted from change taking thousands of years to hundreds of years to just 50 years to a couple years to every single day. It's insane because in this period right here where it took thousands of years, generations of people could have been around. You know, you, your dad, your grandpa, your great grandpa, your great great grandpa, his great 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 grandpa, and so on, would have never seen a change in how money worked or exchange of value worked. Going over here over this 500-year period, um, tons of people, you, your dad, your grandpa, your great grandpa, would have all been around without nothing changing. And it gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And in your parents' generation, your parents in your 60s, 70s, actually your grandparents now, your 80s, 90s, they saw cash change to credit and debit, to Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. They saw three changes of different currencies, which is something that was never seen before in the history of anyone's lifetime, especially if you lived in one country or civilization. Now our generation has seen um, hundreds, millennials will see hundreds of new currencies, possibly over their lifetime, thousands of new currencies. How long they'll stick around for, that's yet to be seen. So let's go to store of value. So a store of value is any form of wealth that maintains its value without depreciating. Commodities such as gold and other forms of precious metals are goods. Precious metals, I think this is a typo. Um, Commodities such as gold and other forms of metal are good stores of, they're good stores of value, as their shelf lives are essentially perpetual. So store of value is somewhere you park your money, um, where you expect that value to be retained. That is something that more than likely will appreciate in value rather than depreciating. And that is something where the supply doesn't change very much. So if you stored all your money in gold, it's a safe haven because there's a limited amount of gold. If all of a sudden every year they double the amount of gold, it wouldn't be a store of value because the supply is increasing, 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 and therefore your wealth and the money that you put in there is going to be depreciating. So there's an argument about cryptocurrencies being a store of value. I can see why people wouldn't think so because they're very volatile, even though over the last couple years, they've gone up an average of what, 10 to 100 times per year, at least for Bitcoin. So there is some appreciation there. A lot of people think that cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin are a store of value because there's a set amount of coins or tokens that are going to be released. It's not like a typical fiat currency today where it's up to a government or economic circumstances to see how much are being printed. There's a set amount of Bitcoin that are going to be released, and the same with many other cryptocurrencies. So that is definitely something and a reason why a lot of people think that cryptocurrencies are a store of value. But moving on. So going over to the average age, these numbers are very hard to exactly quantify. Obviously we weren't around several thousands of years ago, but going back really to when the earliest form of these gold, silver, copper, platinum being used. These are the earliest dates I can find. So this is the best example I have. Gold, it's hard to date back. It says it's been used for over 5,000 years. Same with silver. Copper, they say 10,000 years, maybe 5,000 years. So we'll go with the average there. And they say platinum has been used, excuse me, as a store value for about 300 years. Once again, very hard numbers to make sure that they're 100% correct, but the point remains the same. So the average age of those stores of values, and by the way, there are other stores of value such as ammo, jewelry, paintings, but those are all different things that have different values. You know, a painting isn't like gold where it's the same exact thing. They could all have different values, different kind of paintings, and etc. So I'm going to exclude different stores of value that people may have and just go with precious metals for now because those are all stores of values and they're all very similar. So the average age of those is 4,400 years. If you were to consider Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies that are considered store values, that decreases the average age about 900 years. Big difference there. What does the future look like for stores of values? That's going to be hard to, really quantify. Or figure out? Is it just going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be a couple coins that, have a locked-in valuation? That's going to be very hard to tell in the future exactly what the future of stores of value could be. But the idea that a digital asset cannot be a store of value, I disagree with that completely. I think we're going to see several of them in the future, and possibly a little bit of diversification there between Bitcoin and some other competitors as well, along with gold and silver. That is to be seen. But that being the case, if there's more introduced, the average age of the top stores of value could decrease, just like all of our last examples, currencies, stocks. The average age of a store of value asset could be decreasing. Will digital assets, digital stores of value completely wipe out all these others and the average age of a digital store of value be in the 10-year range, 20-year range, 40-year range? We don't know. I mean, in reality, if those things shifted every couple years, it would not be a store of value. If there's a new currency store of value every 10 years, it wouldn't really be a store of value then because it's not something that would be a store of value long term. So that is to be seen, something to think about there. Commodities. Here's a definition I found, I believe, on Investopedia. So a commodity is a basic good used in commerce that is interchangeable with other commodities of the same type. Commodities are most often used as, let me repeat this line here. Commodities are most often used as inputs in the production of other goods and services. The quality of a given commodity may differ slightly, but it is essentially uniform across producers. So a commodity is a basic good used in commerce, and a commodity is also most often used as inputs in the production of other goods and services. So, still trying to define exactly what a commodity may be. Very great line in some aspects there. So here are commodities pre-tech era, the internet age, blockchain age. Just as with stores of value, it's pretty hard to exactly, decide and figure out when exactly it started to be used in trade. What was the exact year that people started trading wheat, coffee, corn, oil? Very hard to pinpoint, but these are the best examples that I was able to find out. So here are the top 10 traded commodities, and they have an average lifespan of 4,249 years. Pretty similar to store values. Now, something to think about is with the internet age, that gray line there on what is a commodity is going to change significantly. It could be and will be non-tangible goods, cloud storage, cryptocurrencies such as maybe it's a native token used on a platform that facilitates the movement of smart contracts. Um, Applications like Ether and gas on the Ethereum platform, that's what's used to confirm transactions, to move value. It's basically the oil or the gas of a platform. Once again, why Ether has something known as gas, and why Neo blockchain has something known as gas as well. So it's a large argument that there's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there that could be considered as commodities as well. And then distributed computation. So if you consider these new commodities mixed in with uh, pre-tech commodities in the top 10, you have an average age of 3,275 years. So just about 1,000-year difference. What does this mean? The next couple years, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 years, is going to be very interesting to see how commodities evolve. Will this top 10 be the same? Will half of them be non-tangible goods that you can hold, smell, taste? Will the majority of them be blockchain applications, storage applications, computation applications, or even things we've never even heard of before, or even considered? Will the top 10 average age be in the 20-year range, 50-year range, 10-year range? Could the most traded commodities, the top 10 most traded commodities in the world, could some of them have a lifetime of only 5 years? Could there be that much exponential change? An idea to think about, but it is, there is no doubt that commodities over the next several years, I don't know what time range, are going to change drastically. 100 years from now, some of these commodities may not even be in the top 10. Will it be 100 years from now? Maybe 50 years. Who knows? 50-50, half? Not quite sure. Something to think about. In 2050 or 2030, whatever the year may be, let's take another look at these top 10 traded commodities. Will they be similar, or will it be an entirely new deck of cards? We are yet to see that. Even just introducing these couple right here, you're bringing down the average age of 1,000 years. So something to think about there, and something I'm very interested in as well. And what is considered a commodity? Because right now a lot of people think it's a tangible thing that you can feel, taste, touch exactly, but in a digital world that may not be the case. So what does the future look like? I mean, this is something we can all sit around and just debate different scenarios all day, and none of us have the answer. So this is actually an open discussion. I like to bring it back, in my opinion, to exponential change. Things change and are going to change faster than you and I will ever realize. The next 10 years of our lives, from 2018 to 2028, will be like nothing we've ever seen. We're going to see more change in the next 10 to 20 years than we've ever seen in any 10 to 20 year period that we've ever had, in my opinion. There's going to be new asset classes created in the future, some things that we've never even thought about before. The top 10 asset classes right now, I believe, can be shifted around. There's going to be some asset classes that we've never even thought about before that are going to make it to that top 10, whether it's blockchain cryptocurrencies or another financial product or commodity, a type of commodity that could be considered a financial asset or an asset class. So something to think about, looking back at all those examples: currency, stocks, commodities, stores of value. Those are all things that can drastically change and will change. The top 10, all those faces we saw in the top 10, let's explore those in a couple years, 5, 10, 20, 50 years, and let's see what that top 10 looks like. It'll probably be things we never even imagined possible, and that amount of time of the average age could possibly be dramatically lowered. Once again, we may have commodities in the top 10 that have only had a lifetime of 5 years. The top 10 stocks or projects by market cap could be projects that maybe have an average lifetime of 5 years as well, and etc., and currencies as well. So something to think about, and this is why I think it is foolish to doubt and underestimate digital assets and any technological changes in the future, because over time we are proved over and over again that change happens faster than we can ever imagine, and it's speeding up. Thank you for watching.